Good afternoon, everyone. How's everybody doing today? I hope good to see you, Jordan. How are you? Welcome in. Welcome, welcome. So, guys, we are going to be watching this press conference. This is getting ready to break right now. It is scheduled for 2 p.m. And so we are just waiting for them to come live with this information. As you guys know, she was arrested on February the 14th, which is Valentine's Day, after the police were called in for a welfare check by her landlord because she had not been seen, she had not paid rent, and things like that. And so he was worried that something could have possibly happened and called for a welfare check because he had not heard or seen from her and she had not been paying rent. Upon doing that welfare check, police, instead of finding that something potentially happened to this mom, unfortunately found these three children hiding because they had reached out to their mom to tell her that police were there, and she instructed them to hide, but they found them hiding inside of this home that was described as the officer as being absolute squalor. He said that there was trash up to 4 feet high in some of the rooms, and there was so much feces and things like that mixed in with the garbage because they did not have an operating toilet for this time period. The bathtub also did not work properly. Hi, BC. Hi, Rhonda. Good, so good to see you guys. Not a good circumstance, as you guys know. This case is absolutely tragic. It's very, very terrible. The things that took place and happened with with these children inside of this home over this time period. But I am very interested in seeing what exactly the charges are going to be that they brought. BC, thank you so much for sharing this update with me and letting me know so that I could clock out at work for a minute and come live and share this information with you. I'm just gonna, while we're waiting, go through some of the information that we have about this situation again. For those of you guys who might be newer to the case, and if you're newer to the case or to the channel, please take a second, hit that like button if you have not done so already. What that does is that helps this video and other videos get into the algorithm so that people can see this information, and also helps the channel grow. And subscribe so that you guys can be alerted whenever I'm going to do last minute live streams like this, because sometimes we don't know until a minute or two before I go live. And so, please, hit the subscribe button and ring all notifications if you are on YouTube. If you're on Facebook, you can also hit the follow, or on Twitch, hit that follow. So good to see everybody who came in, though. So let me just share this information to go down through things just in case some of you guys might be newer. This is the original uh, information that we've seen from the Oakland County Sheriff's Office once this case started coming into the news. And it was dated on February the 16th. It said a Pontiac mother who abandoned her three children for years, leaving them alone in absolute squalor and survive only on weekly drop-offs of prepared food, was arrested by Oakland County Sheriff's Office deputies. The 34-year-old mother, who is not being identified as she shares the same name as one of her children, is being held in the Oakland County Jail. Out of respect, even though we have found her name, I know her information and things like that. I'm not, out of respect, going to share that name on this channel. Other channels might make a different decision. Other types of news agencies might make a different decision. I'm going to uphold this request from the sheriff's office until it comes out publicly from the prosecutor or someone else. You won't see me say it, because one of her children does share the same name as her. Hi, Nikki. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hi, Taylor. Yes, these poor kids. It's absolutely horrific. They are. They're going to need a lot of help and a lot of support, and we will continue to share that PayPal information that is from the sheriff's department. The sheriff's department is the one running the fundraiser for them, and their intention is for the funds to go into a trust fund so that these children don't have to worry about things. Hi, Sarah Hart. How are you? Yes, Jill, her name will be out soon enough. Until it is, though, circulating through the mainstream media, I guess I should say, or through the law enforcement means, we're just going to continue to respect that decision. Which, if you guys watched my live stream from last night, I did go through some of her Facebook profiles, showed her picture and things like that. She's not very hard to find. She's just not. Yeah, it's shocking that it went on for such a long time, right? So he said, throughout my extensive career in this field, I have never encountered a scenario as dire and as prolonged as this one, involving abandonment, neglect, and abuse of the highest order. The situation would be deemed deplorable and intolerable for an animal, and it is utterly unacceptable for three children. They have been deprived of any interaction with their mother and have not received education for years. The far reaching consequences of this abuse must be acknowledged. We will look forward to presenting this case to the prosecutor and ensuring that this mother faces the consequences of her actions. The children, a 15-year-old boy and his two sisters, 12 and 13 years old, have been placed in custody of a relative by Child Protective Services. Deputies were called to a home in the 600 block of Lydia Lane on Friday afternoon to perform a welfare check on the occupants of the home. The landlord had contacted deputies after he had not heard from the mother since December. Rent was last paid in October, and he was concerned that something may have happened. She had been a renter of his for several years, obviously, and he waited quite a long time. Like, he didn't send her an eviction notice and things like that. He sent a welfare check. I think that speaks volumes about this landlord's character because he was genuinely worried about her to find out if she was going to be okay. Hi, Ringo. How are you? Hi, Seal. Good to see you guys. Upon their arrival, deputies found a home in deplorable shape. Garbage was piled as high as 4 feet in some rooms. Mold and human waste was found through, with the toilet overflowing and feces in the bathtub. Deputies checked the residence for occupants and found the boy and his sisters. The girls had locked themselves in the bathroom, but opened the door when asked. Hi, Justice Jane. The boy said that he and his sisters lived alone in the home as his mother had abandoned them in 2020 or 2021. Yesterday, during the press conference, the officer said that they have narrowed it down now at this point to 2020 was the last time that she went to the home. She had taken garbage bags, Febreze, and I need to try to find an exact list of the items because I keep trying to remember, but I can't. But she had taken a few small things, and that was the last time that any type of cleaning supplies at all went to that home. These children have not even had toilet paper all of this time. They've had no personal hygiene items at all since 2020. The boy said that he and his sisters lived alone in the home as his mother had abandoned them. The mother did not leave toilet paper or personal hygiene items. The mother had contact with the boy, but it appeared she had not seen the girl in years. The scene was processed by an evidence technician wearing a hazmat suit. The children had not attended school since their abandonment. They passed time watching television or playing games. It appeared the girls had not been outside of the home for several years. The boy slept on a mattress on the floor while the girls slept on pizza boxes. Neighbors told deputies that they were unaware that the children lived in the home and that they never saw them outside. They did see the mother dropping things off at the home each month. The children were taken to a hospital for evaluation, and they were wearing soiled clothing. Their hair was matted, and their toenails were several inches long, making it difficult to walk. It appeared the children were unfamiliar with how to use personal hygiene items or know how to flush a toilet. The mother was found at another location and arrested without incident. She said the father of the children was not involved in their lives. She said that, but this man did try to get custody of them at one point. Uh, and it's crazy to me that she fought for custody of these children just to leave them in situations like this, just to leave them and abandon them in absolute, complete, and total squalor. It's absolutely vile. It's horrific that anyone would do this to their children. Absolutely horrific. And so I hope that they prosecute her to the fullest extent of the law. Now, from what we were looking at yesterday, unfortunately, the fullest extent of the law, depending on what they try to charge her with, is not going to result in very much jail time at all for her. And so I'm very interested to hear this press conference that's going to be coming up because we are going to hear what exactly the prosecutor is able to charge her with. So this is from yesterday, this article here. I'm going to go down through it. It's kind of a summary of the press conference that we watched yesterday evening. If you guys didn't see that live stream, consider going over to watch last night's live stream. We went over some of this stuff. So we're just waiting for today's live stream to start. And as soon as that press conference starts, I'll move us over to it. This is the live stream from yesterday if anybody is interested in checking that out. So it said the case against the 34-year-old mother who is not being named to protect the identity of her three children was given to the prosecutor's office on Monday for review. During a 2 p.m. press conference, the county sheriff said the kids had already made amazing progress and praised the community for the charity from those who sent the department clothes and other materials. The sheriff reported that the three children had gotten a health checkup at the hospital and were currently in the care of social services organization in Pontiac. A more detailed appointment looking at their physical and mental health will be done in the near future, but told the media Tuesday that all three were doing well, having some tender love, having had some supportive care, having been put in new clothing and some basic hygiene. The one detective said that the little girl was talking quite a bit, so that's super exciting. While many questions around the circumstances of the horrific story remain, the sheriff did tie up some loose ends. The children's father had been in jail at the time their mom had abandoned them. After getting out, he got approval from the court for visits with the kids, but the mom never allowed access. Hi, Amanda Page. I agree. She does not even deserve the title mom. Like, I'm tagging her as momster at this point because she's not. She's a monster. An absolute, complete, and total momster. We are lucky that these children survived this situation. This could have been so much worse. Hi, Lindsay. It is. It's absolutely terrible. Hi in the bushes. Good afternoon, Fly Girl. Yeah, it's just like Harmony Montgomery, Megan Boswell. There's so many cases, guys. So many. So he blamed the gaps in the school enrollment process that allowed the children to slip through the cracks, adding that the pandemic likely played a role since they were likely living alone since the spring or summer of 2020. Just double checking on this presser. So they have the podium showing, but it's not live yet, just so you guys know. I am waiting for it to actually come on. I agree, Jordan. Thank God that they are alive. She was living at another location, Amanda. As soon as the press conference starts, I'll move over to it, guys. And so the department was, where are we at here? So that's something that he said that he actually presented ideas for change so that the red flags would go up and so that the children could be protected in the future from things like this going unnoticed. And I really hope and I believe that he will follow through and try to help make sure that these things actually pass through a legislator to make sure that there are red flags that go up whenever children just vanish from school essentially. She stopped by every month to leave food, and he said that by the end of it, that she was only leaving, like, a loaf of bread to for them to survive on. What we don't know, it says, is the mystery behind the mother's reason for abandoning her kids. Police place plan to further investigate and have more questions for her, but it said that she was answering questions and that her background did not indicate any mental health challenges. So the press conference today is going to be about the charges. And so just goes over the things that I had talked about. So let me get you guys that PayPal link if anybody wants it, and we will switch over to this tab where we're going to watch the press conference. So here is the PayPal link if anybody is interested in donating towards these children for the trust fund. Yeah, she was out living her best life somewhere. These children have not seen their mom in 4+ years. She was sending DoorDash to their house for them to eat. There was strangers, quote unquote, dropping off food to them. She was literally ordering DoorDash, and according to a friend who had posted, she was complaining about needing to send the kids DoorDash and things like that, alleging that her baby daddy didn't have money, wasn't taking care of them, different things like that. Meanwhile, she was completely abandoning them and leaving them with nothing. Who owns the house? She was renting it. And so the landlord actually called for the welfare check. She paid for it up until October of this past year. Up until October for this last year, she has paid rent on an apartment that she was not staying at. And also, she was keeping the electric and the water on as well because they had running water, they had electricity. So she was paying bills for an entire separate life, essentially, from where she was actually staying and asking her dad for money constantly and things like that. I think that the text messages, like once this actually makes it to the court process, whenever they start showing the communications between her and the son, I think it's going to be traumatic. I mean, she had some type of contact with him that he was able to call her and say that the police was there and she told them to hide. Yesterday during the press conference, another thing that they revealed was that the girls had never stepped outside of the house and that the son had only stepped outside 2 times, once to get the mail and once so that he could touch grass. Yeah, Sarah Hart, she probably did. I wonder if they're going to be able to charge her for benefits that she had been taking. Hi, Rebel. So the friend, according to what she said, they all thought that the dad had the children, and apparently nobody checked with the dad to see if he actually had the kids. But my thing is, like, he allegedly lived in the same type of area. And so I don't understand how people didn't notice that he never had them with him or he never posted about them on social media, like stuff like that. That to me, it's hard. You're still a little shocked that her parents didn't at least want to know more, right? Like a Casey Anthony, but at least the dad exists. Yeah. I don't know. I'm withholding judgment on everyone else until we see more because because whenever comes right down to it, I can sit here and I can scream from the rafters, how did no one know? How did no one know? Um, but at the same time, I don't know what the circumstances were in the communications that she's had with people. 4 or 5 years is a long freaking time though to just accept not seeing your grandkids, your nieces, your nephews, like that's a long time to just accept that they're somewhere else without ever reaching out to the bio dad and saying, "Hey, like we want to visit with the kids or we want to send Christmas cards or we want to do whatever." Like it's a very long time to not make any effort to make contact to be able to find out from bio dad that he didn't have them. That's all it would have taken. That's all it would have taken. You keep wondering how it didn't smell. Yeah, that's something that I have thought as well because the area that they were in, those homes are very close together. Let me pull it up. I was looking at this yesterday. Let me pull up on Google Earth here real quick. Just the area while we're waiting for this presser to start. I mean, I kind of feel bad for the landlord right now too, because this man is going to, I mean, that apartment's done. It's gonna be have to be completely gutted by a biohazard team, completely redone in order for it to ever be out on the market again. Like it's gonna cost him a lot of freaking money to get that place up and going again. But again, thank God one of these children did not die in that apartment. Like I am so thankful that they were found and this awareness was brought to their situation before they were actually deceased. Okay, so let me show you guys this tab over here. So this is the road that they lived on. I'm not entirely sure exactly which one they lived in. Let me see if they have a street view. But whenever you look at it, they're all connected. These residents are all connected. And so you would think like whatever insects or other types of things that were inside of their home, like that's going to be an issue for everyone surrounding. But also you go back to, why is there going to be like a smell? Like how did the neighbors not notice stuff like that? I don't know. I don't know. How did they not get sick or hurt? I was really sad thinking about this um yesterday because whenever you stop and think about this in the last 4 years, 5 years, I imagine that they would have had illnesses. They just said that they're gonna be a few more minutes to sit tight and, thank you for your patience is what they just said. Um, you would think about the fact that in the last 4 or 5 years, I guarantee you that they got sick at some point in their little lives. I guarantee you that they went through some type of illness. These girls' age, they are 12 and 13 years old now, depending on their nourishment and things like that that were what exactly the contents of their food and their amount of activity and things of that nature. They likely went through their first menstrual cycles completely alone. And then without no toilet paper, without any type of hygiene products, without any laundry being done, without anything to clean themselves. Like it's just horrific to really stop and think about it. And then their hair not getting brushed or combed or having no one to help them do that. Or maybe they did start out, maybe Big Bro did start out trying to take care of them and then they gave up. Like I just can't. They were only 4 miles from safety. Yeah, the landlord called in the welfare check. 4 miles. That's crazy. That's where the grandparents live, 4 miles away. Wow. Too many children being hurt in Michigan lately, my friend. Yeah. I seen that, Sarah. 2 passed away in the car, the 5-year-old who passed. I seen the hyperbaric chamber explosion too. Sarah, I know. I know it's so much. So much. That one with the mom with the kids who passed away in the car, that was horrible too. She was trying to get into a shelter, trying to get help, and they just kept pushing her off and pushing her off and pushing her off. And then she ran out of gas and her kids died. They froze to death. I Absolutely horrific. Yeah, she did everything she could. She tried so hard. And that's great to be able to sit here and say she tried so hard and like stuff like that, but it does not bring her babies back. And now everyone wants to help her. Everyone's trying to help now. And it's like, well, dang, why didn't you help her then? I don't know, man. And then you have moms like this out there living her best freaking life while her babies are sitting there in trash and their own feces and things like that. It's just, I don't understand people. I don't understand how you hate your children so much that you just leave. You just make a plan and just up and leave. How do you take your kids? Here's the thing that gets me too. Her mom had previously had her children. And then she thought she got herself this apartment so that she could get her kids back, just so she could move her kids into the apartment and then leave them there instead of giving them back to her mom, instead of giving them back to her dad. And then the dad got out of jail and wanted custody of the children. He wanted custody of them, and she fought him to maintain custody and refused the visits just so that she could abandon them. So that she could sit there and ignore them and just give them food, send them food occasionally. Like, what? How? Why? What is the point of that? I will never understand. I would never understand. There were people. This isn't even about like, oh, drop them off somewhere so that somebody else could love them. This isn't like or like at a fire station or something. There are people who literally were fighting for these children. People who wanted these kids. People who loved these kids. I've seen pictures of these babies, guys, and they they were cared for at one point. To go from that to this, to abandoned, to literally living in your own fecal matter? Why? Would she have had to pay support? Yeah, I bet you she would have. But here's the thing. She was paying rent, electricity, water. DoorDash is freaking expensive. She was paying a lot of things already. And so I imagine that her child support probably would have been a heck of a lot less than what she was paying, unless the state was paying for everything that was providing for the children. Yep, everybody begging to see them. I don't understand. It's disturbing. Probably got a lot of help having custody of them. Yep. Well, I guess if you stop and think about it, what happened with COVID? We all got them checks. Those checks for children. How many thousands of dollars that she would have got? For the COVID relief payments and things like that. The extra money on the tax returns that was dishing out every 6 months and stuff. No. She didn't currently have to pay support seal, but if you abandon your child into the system, or or like if you give your kid up for adoption, things like that, you have to pay support as long as they're in the system. In most states, anyways. Now, I would argue, though, that I doubt that her parents would have made her pay. I doubt her parents would have made her pay to have them babies at their house. I bet you they would have just loved on them. I bet you they would have just took care of them. But she would have lost them COVID relief payments. She would have lost them food stamps, probably. That's true, Taylor. She couldn't let them see their dad because she had already abandoned them, though, right? She knew she'd catch a case if he found out what was happening. That's true. They did, Justice Jane. The son had to have had a phone because he reached out to her whenever the police showed up and was like, "Oh my God, the police are here," and she was like, "Hide." But they opened the doors whenever the police asked. They let them in. And thank God they did. There was a lot of money floating around during COVID. A lot. I think it almost makes it worse, knowing that she was just getting so much money off of their backs. I guarantee it. I hope they charge her for every dollar. Fraud. Where they at? They're way late. 20 minutes late. It's all right. They know they didn't want me to have to fold my laundry because that's what I was about to do. My lunch break right now at work. I was going to fold clothes real quick. Hi, Roberta.
We're getting closer. Sorry, there's some paperwork that we need to get over before we can start.
You've lost all credibility now.
Oh, yeah.
It's warm in here, so you can't complain.
We like within the next 10-ish minutes.
Yeah, hopefully.
You just say another 10-ish minutes.
Sorry to keep you guys waiting. I hate to start these things late, so.
It's okay.
He said they had paperwork they had to finish up. Probably another 10-ish minutes. That's crazy. Y'all didn't know you were doing a press conference 20 minutes ago. I know, right? They know I'm waiting on them. Maybe I should go to stand at the laundry pile while I talk to you guys.
Oh, yeah.
It's all right. Yeah, sounds like paperwork is the delay. Yep, that's what he said. I want to test this because I don't know, Seal. It should work. You had asked about this real quick. I'll have to check Nightbot if it doesn't. Yeah, there it goes. It works. Did you type it right? I don't know. Let me pull up some of this other stuff. So let me see.
Should have brought a deck of cards, Ty.
I was just telling them that, years ago before phones, what you did with this
Oh, is he going to turn it up?
newspaper.
Probably not. I'll probably have to volume share. Oh, that's true. Not if they are filing more charges. Maybe. Maybe they're pulling more stuff up. Wonder if we'll hear more personal info from the crowd. Oh, maybe. Yeah, me too, Roberta. I hope they stack those charges. Nikki said, this kind of thing makes me really mad. I don't have kids due to having PCOS and endometriosis. Yeah, shows how cruel someone can be. It's just beyond me. I will never understand. I really will never understand. And I think the thing that frustrates me the most is we keep seeing this common theme between these children that are quote unquote falling through the cracks. And things don't ever change to stop the cracks. Like nobody ever fills in the gaps. And so maybe this time, since they were found alive before they were able to be deceased, maybe this time, maybe with this sheriff and the motivation that he seems to have to try to fill some of these cracks, maybe this will be the case that makes a difference. Because it gets sickening to see one after another, after another, after another, and it's the same thing over and over and over and over again with these cases.
Yes, yeah.
It's infuriating. Hi, Ocean Tide. It's just infuriating. And so some of the stuff that he proposed yesterday was making sure that if a child is moved from one school to another, because that's what happened in this one, she filed for them to be moved from one school to another, and the new school, they never showed up, so the new school just dropped them from the roster, and the old school assumed that they were at the new school, and so there was no visual of the children ever at the new school, and nobody ever reached back out to say, hey, where are them kids at that were supposed to be coming? And that was it. They just left it go. And there was not one red flag raised. And so he was proposing after 10 days truancy, 20 days truancy, like that the truancy officers would be able to do certain follow-ups um over and over again. Hi, Ramblin'. And this is my question, BC. I can't even count how many children cases we have seen in the last 3-4 years since COVID started. I can't even count it because it's that many child neglect, abuse, and murders, and children that we're finding out were missing for years and nobody even was aware that they were missing. Like Hayden's case that I mentioned the other day, been missing for 5 years. How does nobody notice that he's missing for 5 years? How did nobody notice that these children were abandoned for 5 years? Nobody's seen them for 5 years. Like, how does that happen? How does that happen? And it terrifies me to think these are just the ones that we know about. There are still children right now, I guarantee you, that are in situations similar to these kids that nobody knows yet. Or maybe they were left in situations like this and didn't make it. Oh no, Sarah. Definitely praying for you. School was less than a mile away from where they lived. These poor children, they probably had friends in that apartment complex. Maybe. You're wondering if she had a sugar daddy who may have left her around October. The extra money she got from her family was that much less that she had to explain, right?
Hey, just let everyone know, there's some live mics on here, so, on some live stream, so just want to let everyone know. And we'll be starting as soon as I can, I promise. I apologize again. Thank you.
What did he just say? Not yet, Ramblin'. We don't know for sure who she was with. Do it like this so that we can volume boost. Again, the PayPal guys, I'm going to drop the link again. All of this goes to the victims, to these children. He's setting it up in a trust fund. He asked for a lawyer yesterday to assist. And yeah. It was shocking when Harmony was missing for 2 years, but now kids are missing for 3 to 5 years or more. It's just insane, and it's so heartbreaking. You know what else it tells me? It tells me the divide in our country between families. Families go literal years without talking to each other. And in the past, it used to take a village to raise a child, and now people just don't care. Like, you don't talk to your neighbors, you don't look out for your neighbors. I would be willing to say that a good amount of people probably don't even know their neighbors' names. Probably have no clue what your next door neighbor's name is, because everybody just minds their business. They just mind their business and nobody pays attention. And then families are just like the mental health crisis that surrounds our country, that allows families to just hate each other and become so divided to the point where you don't even care. You don't even care what's going on. Or you just accept whenever people shut you out completely of their life and you just move on. It's hard. And I know that there are some people that you got shut out of your life because of their, issues or whatever. But it's sad because the children who is suffering through all of this, it's the kids. You're not saying mental illness is an excuse, but if she's not showing any signs, it makes it much worse. I agree. You think she was a selfish person and just got tired of paying rent? Yeah. Well, the extra money from COVID all dried up, and that was it. Well, it sounds like I hear bodies moving. Hopefully they're coming. Nope.
She should be headed in momentarily. 5 more minutes, y'all could have signed your name on the attendance sheet and credit for class.
Wow, that was an ultra close up. Oh man.
Stand by, John.
Yeah, sorry, not sorry. You're a see something, say something kind of lady, right? Yeah, exactly, Jordan. She probably shut her family out. According to what we've seen in comments and posts and things like that, she told the family that she didn't have custody of the kids anymore, that she had lost custody to the dad. But again, I go back to, it shocks me that the family just accepted that, and none of these aunties or uncles or grandparents or anyone, nobody reached out to the dad through all of that time. They all knew his name. So nobody reached out to the dad in 4 years and asked, like, hey, can we see the kids? Can we send them a Christmas card? Can we send them anything? And he would have been like, what do you mean, can we see the kids? I've been trying to see the kids. I mean, I'm able to I pulled up their case record, their court documents just fine. There you go. We can see their court records just fine for the custody battle and stuff. So, the family could have done little things like that to confirm if that was the truth or not. But I think most people don't know how to operate the court systems, number one. I'm not even going to pretend that most people know how. But it's crazy to me that no one even attempted to see them from dad. He's on Facebook. I can message him right now. Because so she was alleging that baby daddy needed money for this, needed money for that the kids needed this or that. And so it was getting money from her dad to send to their dad, allegedly, or to send them DoorDash or whatever. You stalk your niece every day. Right. I would have been all over trying to see them get picked. Right.
My name is David Williams. I'm the Chief Assistant here at the Oakland County Prosecutor's Office. Standing here with us are Assistant Prosecutor Kanika Ferenczi, Assistant Prosecutor Lauren Benninger, Chief of our Special Victims Unit Sarah Green, our Chief of Administration Betsy Haig, and of course Prosecutor McDonald. We're also joined by detectives who've been involved in the case from the Oakland County Sheriff's Office. That's Lieutenant Sam Marsban and Detective John Brish. Prosecutor McDonald will announce the charging decision today and take your questions, but before she does that, I want to remind everyone that charges are only allegations and the defendant is presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty. Also, the details in the prosecutor's remarks today come from the swear-to in 50th District Court earlier today. Prosecutor McDonald.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Look at this camera guy
First,
is zooming.
I'd like to announce that we have authorized 3 charges of first-degree child abuse against Kelli Bryant, a 34-year-old resident of Pontiac. My office has already advised the court in the neglect proceedings that we will be asking to terminate the defendant's parental rights. In every case of child abuse, my office focuses first and foremost, on the best interest of the child or children and on holding those responsible for abuse accountable. The three children in this case suffered unimaginable abuse and neglect over a long period of time. Thankfully, they've now been rescued from that, and our first priority has been and will continue to be their safety and well-being. I want to briefly address, though, why we're here. Since the first announcement over the weekend by the sheriff, this case has captured the attention of the people across our community, our county, our state, and even internationally, because people are rightfully concerned about the welfare of these children. And we're holding this press conference because, like all other decisions, we balance the interests of public safety, media attention and inquiries, and balancing everyone's right to a fair trial, which is why the events and facts that are disclosed here today are strictly confined to what's already been placed on the record in the swear-to this morning in the 50th District Court. When their circumstances became public, including the photos of the home, although law enforcement did not identify the defendant, she was quickly identified on social media and also has been reported in other news media outlets, which is why we are naming her today. We have recently, luckily, been fortunate enough to, for the first time ever, hire our public information officer, Jeff Watrick, who's in the back of the room. Many of you have already spoken to and will continue to, and we're lucky to have him. The children are currently staying with a relative. All three children received immediate medical attention at a local hospital, and they were interviewed by trained forensic interviewers at Care House. Considering what they've experienced, they appear to be doing okay. Obviously, the trauma here is significant, and my office, including our victim services section, will make sure these children are supported during this process. Today, the charges are 3 counts of child abuse in the first degree. This is the most serious charge for child abuse, and if convicted, Ms. Bryant could face a sentence of up to life in prison. In the swear-to this morning, on the record, it was stated that in 2019, suspect Kelli Bryant was living at the home, which I'm not disclosing the address at this time, in Pontiac, Michigan, with her 4 children. At some point between 20 and 2021, the suspect moved out of her home, leaving 3 of her children abandoned in that location, while 1 of her children went to live with their father. On February 14th, 2025, police were called to the home by the landlord. Police learned that the landlord was concerned for the welfare of Ms. Bryant, who had not paid rent on the property since October of 2024. Police entered with the landlord and discovered her 3 children, ages 12, 13, and 15. Her daughters were hiding in a bathroom that was filled with feces, piles of trash, and completely non-functional, while her son was hiding in another room. Police were astonished to find anyone in the location because it appeared to be uninhabitable, with piles of garbage and refuse several feet high, including large amounts of human excrement. The children were afraid to come out of their hiding places and to speak with the police. Police had to repeatedly advise the children that they were there to help and they were safe. The children's bodies and clothing were covered in feces, and the girls had difficulty physically walking outside of the residence. In addition to the physical difficulty, they appeared to be and were immediately overstimulated upon leaving the residence. All 3 children were transported via ambulance to the hospital and showed signs of severe neglect. At the hospital, the children struggled with completing basic hygiene tasks like flushing a toilet and brushing their teeth because they had not done it in years. The children were forensically interviewed and described having virtually no physical contact with their mother, suspect Bryant, or the outside world in several years. The girls had not left the residence in several years, and her son had only left the home to go into the yard approximately 2 times, never venturing away from the house more than to check the mailbox. During his interview, her son stated that he would text their mother when their food supply was running low and she would have food delivered to the residence. The children shared that during the years they were concealed in the home, suspect Bryant failed to provide toilet paper, soap, or shampoo. The defendant instructed the kids that they were not to answer the door or leave the house. All 3 children expressed fear about what their mother's response would be if they left the home. Defendant concealed the children from family and friends and lied about who was caring for the kids and their whereabouts. The defendant took the active steps of lying and concealing to make sure the children went undiscovered, and she took these actions knowing that her children would suffer serious physical and emotional harm as a result. Those are the statements made in the swear-to this morning. And again, these are allegations. I do want to point out and thank all the officers that were on scene that day. I personally viewed the videos and images and was struck at what a difficult situation it was, but in the face of that difficulty, offered compassion to these kids. I also want to thank Detective John Bush and Lieutenant Sam Marsban for their dedication in working this case, and of course the assistant prosecutors involved, Chief of Administration Betsy Haig, Chief of our SVU Sarah Green, APA Lauren Benninger, Chief of the Juvenile Division Kelli Collins, and APA Kanika Ferency for their diligent efforts in this case. At present, we've not been presented with a request for criminal charges against any other individuals. That does not mean that won't happen in the future. I just can't speak to it at this point. Morally, there is plenty of responsibility to go around for how this was allowed to happen. However, these 3 kids were entrusted to the care of their mother, Kelli Bryant, and the evidence suggests that she effectively abandoned them to a revolting pit of refuse and squalor. There must be consequences for those actions. The defendant is presently in custody. The 3 children in this case were interviewed at Care House, and I want to emphasize how important Care House is to this community. These kids were interviewed in a safe environment by an experienced, trained forensic interviewer, and these interviews are important in all child abuse cases. They allow each child the chance to tell us their story without the influence of the abuser and without using leading questions that could taint their testimony. I can't emphasize enough how important Care House is. If you suspect a child is abused or neglected, you too can report this to CPS. The hotline is 855-444-3911. And I urge anyone who suspects that a child is being abused or neglected to report that using that number. We need to make sure that every child is safe and well cared for. And before I take questions, I just want to remind you that these charges, again, are only allegations, and the defendant is presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty. Questions?
Not having been to the area, neighbors, anybody? I mean, I think what maybe people struggle with is how intimidated by their mother, yes, but how they could not even venture out of the home, or just nobody knowing that they were there. Or can you add context into, how that can happen?
I can only comment on what's been placed on the record. That's my ethical duty. But I will say that we see time and time again, victims of severe abuse of all ages make decisions that don't seem reasonable to us. And what we know is that that's very common. And there's a multitude of reasons why they didn't leave the home. We just don't know that yet.
They were terrified.
Yes,
Have prosecutors or deputies interviewed the fathers of the children?
they have. Yes.
Multiple fathers or one father?
I think it's already public record that of the 4 kids, there are 2 fathers.
Prosecutor McDonald,
Yes.
what stands out about this case to you? I mean, it's a pretty significant child abuse case.
That's a difficult question and a really good question. I said yesterday, and I've said this to the sheriff personally, we say a lot, this is the worst I've ever seen. And I've stopped saying that because every time I say that, I see something worse. It was unbelievable what they were living with for years. Unbelievable. It wouldn't be surroundings where you would want any living creature living in, creature or animal, or particularly human beings. I mean, these kids, not to have even basic hygiene tools. And I guess what stands out the most for me is no love. There was nobody there to care for them for between 3 and 4 years. No parent, nobody physically present to let them know that they were safe and they were loved. Yes.
Did she have any prior contact with CPS or a prior criminal record?
I can't comment on that.
Is she being held on any outstanding charges, or is it just on this and then she'll be arraigned tomorrow?
We are not aware of any other holds or matters that she would be held under. At this moment, she's being held because of these pending charges. Now they're official, and she'll be arraigned, I believe, tomorrow.
Can you provide more context, appreciating what you said about, you mentioned that he would text his mother, one of the older boy. So he had access to a phone apparently, but.
All the children had access to the phones. They all had their own phones.
So would they see her? I've read an account that maybe she dropped some food off weekly, or can you talk about how they survived if they didn't leave the home, how often she came, and where she was staying?
There was no, according to the evidence that's been placed on the record, there was no physical contact whatsoever. And I don't think it's accurate to say that they had food dropped off weekly. Sometimes, right. Sometimes it was longer than that.
But
and
she was the one distributing?
No, not all the time.
Okay.
Not all the time.
And you had said the restroom was not, is that what you said? The restroom was not maybe properly functioning in there, but do we know if there was heat or air conditioning in the summer? I don't have that. That has not been put on the record. But I do not believe that there was. I believe there was heat enough so that the children were at least able to live there. If not, as you know, given the cold temperatures, there would have been signs of freezing to death.
Where was she staying?
I don't have that information. Not there.
And obviously you've charged her, so she thinks I'm assuming then obviously there's competence. So not that there's ever a reason for something of this horrific nature, but any inferences to the why that she just decided to abandon her kids beyond, some may think mental issues, but obviously not if you're charging her.
Right. Without commenting particularly on this case, as the prosecutor over the last over 4 years, I've been asked, and I hear repeatedly that question on all of the terrible, violent, atrocious acts that we see, the why, and the answer is we don't know why. We can't get in the mind of somebody else, but we do know what the evidence shows, and we have the law, and nobody who is not found competent can stand trial. So I can't comment on that right now, but just to say that sometimes there isn't a why. Yes.
Is there any evidence to suggest that their substance abuse may have been involved or anything?
I can't comment on that.
Has mom been cooperative?
The defendant has an absolute right to remain silent, so any comment I would make on whether or not she's spoken to the police would be a violation of her rights.
Thank you.
Longer term, can you share what the plan is for the children? And some may wonder if family have taken them in now, how they didn't know about. I'm not trying to assess blame by asking, but where were they prior? How did they not know?
Right.
I mean, there are a lot of questions. Obviously.
Good question. And the thing that I want to stress here is that we are responsible for prosecuting all of the criminal cases in this county. We're also responsible for representing the Department of Health and Human Services in child abuse and neglect proceedings. So we are simultaneously prosecuting the criminal case against mom and the neglect proceeding pertaining to the kids. So we will be asking our client, the Department of Health and Human Services, to file a petition to terminate her rights. So there's just a lot we can't really get into, except I do want to say that our client, the Department of Health and Human Services, their number one priority is the care and welfare of children, and wherever they are placed, they do their due diligence to make sure that is a safe placement. And all I can say is that those questions were asked and obviously satisfied. And the other thing I want to say is there's been such an outpouring in this community, but I would just stress that in the effort to take care of these kids, that we also protect their privacy. And Pontiac, if those of you who don't know, it's a small place, and everybody knows everybody, and any outrage is totally understandable,
but we want to do as much as we can to protect their placement so that they are protected.
But to be clear, they are not wards of the state. They are with family.
They are in the care and custody of the Department of Health and Human Services, and they are placed through DHHS with a relative placement. Yes, the custody remains with DHHS until otherwise determined by the court. And again, those are two different proceedings.
Separate tracks.
Yes, that we are, there was a preliminary hearing yesterday, and we'll continue to provide information about that as that moves along.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
In your opinion, they are going to come out with someone else bringing food other than DoorDash. If she couldn't afford rent, no way was it always DoorDash. Yeah, I don't know. Hmm. I bet, yeah, I bet whoever knew is the one she was living with. I have a feeling we're going to see probably at least that individual get charged in this also. Although they wouldn't have had the responsibility to care for these children like she would have if they had knowledge and participated somehow in the abuse. I hope that they can face charges. Absolutely. Hi, Kennedy. Welcome. Yeah, Newen said nothing. I say belong behind bars. I agree. I agree. I also agree with the prosecutor, though, about protecting these kids' rights to their privacy as much as possible and for that healing process. I do hope that people who are local to this case, that you kind of give that familial placement the privacy that they need to help these kids eh, to help these kids get to some type of normalcy. That is going to be such a process. I just I guess I can't even fathom going through the things that they did. Cannot even literally fathom it. Here again is the PayPal link. The sheriff talked about this yesterday. For those of you guys who hadn't seen it yet, he had set up this donation link so that the funds go to the children and to the children only, no one else. He wants a trust fund to be set up so that these kids don't ever have to want for anything. And so if you were thinking like, oh man, I want to donate to Sleuth Mom. Thank you, Sleuth Mom, for covering this stream and yada, 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 or covering this case. Hey, don't. Here is this PayPal link. Send the $5 there, $10, whatever it is. Like, let's send all of the funds to these children because they are going to need it. I want these kids to not want or need for anything for as long as this could even slightly be mentally affecting them. And so if that's for the rest of their lives, then I hope that the community and the locals and everybody supports and helps these kids get there and have that love and financial thing to fall back on while they learn to process all of the different emotions that comes through all of this. So this is going to be a trust fund, he said, set up to go directly to these children and these children only. Hey, Rebel, no problem. Absolutely. I was glad that we were able to see the charges. I'm also glad that the charges that she is being charged with, 3 counts of first degree child abuse, felony child abuse, life in prison is the max. And I am loving that because I was very concerned yesterday looking at like child abandonment charges and things like that, that we were going to be looking at a situation where she was looking at like 15 years. And so I'm very glad that life in prison is on the table because as long as they are suffering mentally with this, then Kelli, you deserve to be behind bars suffering just as long. Period. You had your fun for the last 4.5 years. And now these children deserve to know that they don't ever have to be afraid of you again. You had them so scared somehow that they were terrified to even step outside of the house, to get the mail, to reach out for help, to do anything. They had cell phones. They could have easily called anyone in the world for help at any moment. And you had them so terrified that they never made that decision to dial that. And so they deserve to know that they never have to be afraid of you again. They deserve to be able to go to sleep at night and know that you are somewhere that you can never hurt them. And, in case you didn't hear it, she did say her name. Her name is Kelli Bryant. Um, and so it's out there now by the prosecutor, Kelli Bryant, the momster from Pontiac. Yeah, life with parole is on the table. 3 counts of it to at that. I agree. Yeah, I still find it awful that the dad fought for custody and she fought against him and then had the audacity to tell everyone that the children were with him. It's crazy. I have a feeling the evidence in this case, guys, whenever we start seeing it and this actually goes to trial, um, is going to be horrific. The things that she was texting or doing or whatever to these children, I think it's going to be very, very troubling. So, yeah, I agree. Prayers for these children to navigate their whole new healthy world. So, all right, guys, I got to get back to work. I will talk to you all later. Thank you all for coming to hang out. Please make sure you hit the like button if you have not done so and subscribe if you're not already. We would love to have you with us with our little sleuth family as we cover some of the worst cases in true crime, and we do it together. So, love you guys, and I will talk to you all later.